Hi friends, it's Miss Amanda at the Steele Memorial Library, and we are going to work on our week 6 mythology craft. We are doing a mythological creature silhouette. So this is what we're going to end up with. If you want to grab your bags and get your week 6 supplies out. Hey friends, it's Miss Amanda at the Steele Memorial Library, and we have made it to week 6, mythology. And today we are going to create a watercolor mythical creature straight out of our own imaginations. We are going to need a few things from around your house. You might need a ruler, a cup to put some water in, a small piece of crayon. It has to be a light colored crayon. White would probably work the best, but you could get away with a yellow or a light blue or pink. A box of tissues. You really just need one tissue. Some saran wrap, salt, a paper plate. It can be a regular plate. I just happen to have paper plates here. A pencil, and last but not least, water for watercolors. So I'm going to go ahead and pour my water. If you need time to get any of those things, you can gather them now. I'm gonna straighten up my workstation. Sorry friends, I forgot to say we're going to need a pair of scissors. If you go to your summer reading club bag, we're going to take out week 6. And inside is everything that we are going to need to complete this craft. There should be a tray of watercolor paints, a small square of watercolor paper. It has a funny texture to it, and it's really thick and absorbent. It works really well with watercolors. We're gonna do some test techniques on this. A black sheet of cardstock and a large white sheet of watercolor paper. I'm gonna set those aside for now since we don't need those. We're gonna start with our small square, and we're going to draw 4 lines on them. You can go ahead and just draw a large square. We just want to have 4 squares that we can color in, or you can draw individual little squares so that your watercolors don't mix together. Doesn't matter. Our first technique is the salts technique. So we're gonna go ahead and wet our paintbrush, and then we're gonna pick a color. Your plate can come in handy for mixing your color as well, because sometimes with watercolors, if you have too much paint on your brush, the color will be too dark. And then you're just going to fill in your square. And now that our square is filled in, I'm gonna take a little bit of salt, and you're just going to sprinkle it over top of your wet paint. Then you have to let that dry. We're gonna move on to the next square. So you're gonna wet the color that you're gonna use. And if you wanna use the same color for everyone, go right ahead. This next technique is going to use saran wrap. So you're going to take a small piece of saran wrap. I've already cut mine. You just need a tiny square, and you're going to lay that over the square you've just painted. And you're going to want to fold it in so that you can still paint your other squares, and then we have to leave that to dry as well. So we'll move on to our next square. This square we're going to use a tissue. So you're going to color your square first. After you have your square filled in, you're going to take a small piece of tissue and you're going to crumple it up. It doesn't need to be nice and flat, but you don't want it to be too tight either. You just want it to be nice and wrinkly. And then you're going to take your tissue and you're going to dab at parts of your watercolor. And that's it. That's all you're going to do. And then you let it dry. We're going to move on to our last square, and for this square you're going to need your piece of crayon. You can draw whatever design you want in your square using your crayon. I'm making a striped pattern, and the crayon is made out of wax, and the wax and the water don't want to mix, and so the paint will resist the wax. So wax resist. So we're going to go ahead and paint our square. And you'll notice that everywhere the wax is, the paint does not absorb. And I will let that sit and dry, and then we can look at what each of the techniques looks like when it is dry, and you can decide what you want to do on your large piece of watercolor paper.
A few moments later.
Now that our watercolor is dry, we can go ahead and peel off the saran wrap, and you can see that we have a fun design, like a swirly design in our paint. So where we had the wax, there's no paint. With the tissue, it's been dabbed a bit. Get this kind of geometric shape with the saran wrap, and everywhere where there was salt, we have these speckles. You can just shake off your salt. So what we're going to do with our large piece of paper, we're going to create a silhouette of a mythical creature. So take a minute and kind of think about what creature you would want to make a design of. Dragons, giant squids. I can't think of mythological creatures, Miss Britt. What is it? A unicorn, a pegasus, a minotaur, a centaur, any kind of mythological creature that you've heard in a fairy tale or a myth, and we're going to use that to make the silhouette. So we're going to draw just the outside. But first, we have to make a colorful background for it. I am thinking of something kind of watery. It's kind of a hot day. I would love to go swimming. So I think I might use kind of cool tones and think of something watery. So you're going to take your large piece of paper, and you're just going to color it however you feel. Whatever you are feeling right now, color onto your paper. It can be any color, combination of colors. If you want to use any of these watercolor techniques, you can go ahead and do that to help make a pretty picture. Since I'm feeling watery, I might do some circles like bubbles, because it's water, or like splashy swirls. And then go ahead and paint your watercolor paper. To make it a little easier to paint my paper, I'm going to put a water wash on it. That's just where you take a clean paintbrush and you put water all over the surface, it'll make painting it a little bit easier because it's such a big canvas. Now that I have color on my paper, I am going to do, I think I'm going to do a combination of the salts, because I have it here, and the saran wrap. Just like before, we have to set that aside so that it can dry. Then you're going to take your black piece of paper and you are going to draw the outline of the mythological creature that you are thinking of. So I did water. Can anybody guess what they think I might draw a picture of? It's a mermaid. Oh. So go ahead and draw a picture of the mythological creature that you're thinking of, and it doesn't matter if you have to redraw lines because we can just flip it over to the other side. After you have the outline of your mythological creature, you're going to cut it out. I'm using this pencil to poke a hole through the middle of my paper because it will make it easier to cut through. And then just follow the lines, trace the lines that you've drawn.
Longer than a few minutes later.
Hi friends, so our watercolor has dried. I'm going to take off the saran wrap. Look at that, that's a fun print. I'm going to grab the cutout of our mythological creature and our glue stick. And we are going to put glue on the back side. And then we take the cutout and glue it onto our watercolor paper. And then we have to let that dry. But can you see my cutout? Can any of you tell what that is? After you glue your silhouette onto your watercolor, this is what you should be left with. So you have the silhouette of your mythological creature with the watercolor showing through.